I'm in this sector since last 36 years. We finished it 36th year on 4th of January. I graduated as an architect from CEPT, and I was a first class first student, so I had an opportunity to do a lot of things. At the age of 25, when I graduated, I was a very angry young man. I was angry about a lot of things. I had studied architecture with capital A, and what was bothering me was what was happening to the people with small a, their needs. I was fortunate to get a small fellowship to go to tribal villages and work with a Gandhian called Jugataram Dave. He had worked very closely and fought in the freedom movement. So I, though wanted to pursue my education abroad, I was given an opportunity to go to the villages. So I went backward. Spent 6 months studying and reading about India, our freedom movement, our leaders, and many things. Worked with people who were Gandhians, Sarvodaya leaders. Also worked with professionals in Gujarat Institute of Area Planning. That's where Paul's chairman, Ratindra Roy, with whom I interacted, and many other such professionals. So they formulated some of my thoughts on developmental work. I came back and I realized that this is it. This is what I want to do. I don't want to pursue my higher education abroad. Started Vikas with a 51 rupees in my pocket and a lot of energy and hope. I'm going to tell you the entire journey. Let me tell you very frankly, I'm doing this for myself. I'm not doing it for anybody else. This is something which I'm pursuing because it satisfies me, period. So there is nothing that I'm doing it for others. Yeah, it makes people's life different, great, but it has definitely changed my life, made me very happy. I call it salary plus. That plus is very big, yeah, and so I'm pursuing it. Let me tell you at the beginning only, so that I'm not doing it for anybody else. Combining cause and commerce. Basically, I'm trying to bring sustainability of any idea along with social cause. I also don't like this word social entrepreneur because then you are defining others as anti-social enterprise, which I think is, we need to really revisit the word. Over a period of last 35 years, I have set up 7 organizations. 2 of them are in yellow or these colors, are actually not for profit. The rest are all for profit. Basically, I'm trying to combine the needs of the poor and trying to look at through a market driven solutions. Vikas started as a not for profit because that's the only vehicle I thought available to me to do any work or engagement with the community, with the poor. By the way, I have never worked with anybody other than marginalized. I've only worked with poor people only, nobody else. So all my work is basically trying to see that these people come to the mainstream of the economy, mainstream of the society. That has been the struggle, that has been the basic journey. And in that process, I have tried to evolve several sets of organizations which can allow that process of inclusion of the poor into the mainstream of the economy. What you see here, I call it popularly 3-pin plug. For any wealth generation process, and you cannot fight poverty without generating wealth, you need technology access, market access, credit access, and you also need institutions. And so for that, I have set up these 3 main bodies of organizations. Vikas looks at human resource and institution building process. Save Saline Area Vitalization Enterprise. It's a limited company, for-profit company, looks at technology and markets. And Lok Vikas Nidhi, LVN, is an inclusive growth fund, which I am setting it up as a venture fund. They have incubated Janashakti Parishad, Sabras, Sahyog and Globam. All of them are, of these last three are for profit entities, where poor also own ownership, have a share in the company. We work with agricultural laborers, small and marginal farmers, fishermen, salt producers and charcoal. For us, coast is extremely important. Gujarat has three areas. My work is entirely in Gujarat. I am not going out of Gujarat. I think Gujarat has a lot of work and I can get involved. And I have not set my sight into going into other states and others, though I have worked everywhere, but my focus of my work has been in Gujarat. Gujarat has three broad areas where development is taking place. One is on the tribal belt. Second is the so-called urban corridor, Ahmedabad and Bombay, which I think is a brown corridor, not golden corridor anymore with pollution. And the third one is the coast. The coast is very important for Gujarat because 50% of Gujaratis directly and indirectly depend on coast. And it serves the needs of the entire country in the north. It provides a huge import-export market facilities on the coast. We have 42 ports on 1600 kilometers coastline. So there is a huge interest and investment that is coming up here, and it has a lot of impact on the lives of the people. At present, I am working with the 10,000 agricultural laborers, small and marginal farmers, and 1200 salt producers in Little Run of Kutch. What is our strategy? Our strategy is to sort of, on one hand, set up poor owned, poor controlled, not poorly managed, professionally managed enterprises. Because to generate wealth, you need a professional management. That's where I think the comparative strength of poor and professionals like us can be brought together. Secondly, we work on arresting and reducing salinity as well as regeneration of mangroves along the coast of Gujarat. Mangroves are critical for our ecology, and they are also for us giving us bread and butter. I have done about 1,500 hectares of mangroves, 45 lakh plants along the coast of Gujarat with the help of finances coming from industries and government. I take that as contracts, make money out of it, and finance all my activities through this process. I will tell you, I was fortunate to work in both the times, pre-liberalization and post-liberalization. So first 15 years, I'm going to tell you what happened in the rural areas that we were working. I started my work in Bharuch coastal area of Gujarat here. I was given a small fellowship, assignment by the government of Gujarat to look at resources of that area and also find out answers and solutions to generate maximum employment for the poor in that area. I spent 6 months there. That time I was just 27, 28, working with a team of economists and others to develop this blueprint. I confronted a very sad and shocking reality. People earn 1 rupee, 1.5 rupee per day, 120 days of work, cannot meet two ends, and they have to borrow money. They have to borrow money at 10% per month, and since they cannot repay that, they have to get bonded. 20,000 families living 150 kilometers just down south of Ahmedabad, living as bonded laborers. Nobody will believe it. I was just telling somebody outside, in a vibrant Gujarat, we have a vibrating Gujarat. And this is one pocket which has a huge problem of poverty. And I decided that time that's going to be my life's mission, to see that all these 20,000 families are out of bondedness. Because you and I may leave some savings and wealth for our children, they leave debt and bondedness. Today, after 35 years of work, not thanks to everything because of us, 1,500 families are still remaining. Most of them have come out of it, largely because of economic development that is taking place in that area and that efforts that have been made in that area. Around 92, after mobilizing this 120 village agriculture laborers, we forced government to give them means of production. 1,400 acres of wasteland, 14 village ponds, 700 acres of surplus agriculture land, watershed development programs and mangrove regeneration projects. So in that area, it's a regional development activity. It generated a lot of employment, asserted rights. It was during this period that India was changing its economic policies. And I thought social sector also will have to restructure and reinvent itself and come up with institutional vehicles which will allow poor to migrate into new economy. And that can only be for-profit entities. There is no other way out. So I started looking at it, and we set up the first one in Gujarat called Saline Area Vitalization Enterprise. It was a company which I started with 50,000 rupees of my own, and gradually, today we have a capital of 14 lakhs. I am paying 10% dividend every year since last 14 years, interest free. It's more than the fixed deposit. Once we got those land from the government, we developed those lands. This is the kind of land that we had got, extremely saline, saline water, saline powder. Organize these people, develop the plans, created check dams and others to harvest sweet water, and converted that into a good agriculture land, fisheries, organic manure and others. It was this time that I realized that we need a for-profit company, and we set up this Saline Area Vitalization Enterprise. This is the status. Vikas started with 51 rupees. It has 10 crore corpus. Save Limited is authorized capital is 50 lakhs. I paid up capital is 14 lakhs, of which 6 lakhs is in equity and 8 lakhs is a preference share of 9%. This is all from friends and family. See, 263 shareholders, which also includes agriculture laborers. It has 3 verticals. One is called Prime. I am fond of acronyms, so you will find all that. Project, planning, research, implementation, monitoring and evaluation, which is a consulting arm of this company, which does natural resource development work. I was mentioning to you about mangroves. We take up consultancy with several companies and organizations. Second is LEAP, Livelihood and Enterprise Advancement Program, which is where incubation of small enterprises takes place. And we have Setu, which bridges the producers and consumers through direct marketing of agriculture products. We have till now incubated Sabras, Sahyog and Globam. Sabras was set up in 2007. Sahyog was set up in 2009 and Globam is set up in 2012. All these 3 companies have equity of the primary producers. They take the majority stakes and we put in some money from our side, and we try and provide professional management to this enterprise. Facing serious problems, but we are struggling and surviving and now trying to grow. I am going to tell a little more about Sabras, because that is something very interesting both ways in terms of its journey and others. In the oldest enterprise that we have incubated. Sabras in our language means salt. It's a word which is used to describe salt. When I was young, I used to go house to house on New Year Day and wish best to the elders, and they will give me some money, and I have to give them Sabras, those crystals. It's a desert in Little Run of Kutch in Gujarat. I was given a small study done to be done for Care India post earthquake. We had a very bad earthquake, you know that, and post earthquake they wanted to study the living conditions of the poor along the Little Run of Kutch. One of the work that I was given was to study the lives and living of salt producers. I spent about 6 months in that region and came up with a document called Pinch of Salt. By the way, Gujarat produces 70% of India's salt, and we have 10,000 to 15,000 families in Little Run of Kutch who produce salt during October to May. That's about 7 to 8 months time, and they spend their entire 6 to 7 months in that region. So they leave their villages and go and live in the desert. Two things shocked me when I was doing that study. When salt producers die, their feet have to be cut because they absorb so much salt. The salt production technology is so primitive. A lot of advances have taken place in agriculture production, but not in salt. This is particularly I am talking about inland salt, not the salt which is produced on the coast. The second thing, which was further to me it's injustice. The salt you and I eat around 12 to 14 rupees, they get only 8 to 10 paisa, only less than 1%. Now, no primary producer can ever survive such an inequality. And I thought, let me deal with these issues more as a market solution and sort of join hands with 28 salt producers and say, can we set up a company which is processing and marketing? Because I realized that the next level people who process and market salt make more money than the people who are producing it. And I said, let's climb. Let's not de-intermediate, but let's climb the value chain and become part of it and come closer to the consumer. And 28 of them agreed with me. And we set up a company with 1 lakh rupee. Now, since they didn't have the money, they gave me salt as their equity, 74%, and rest of the 26,000 came from my parent company called Save. And the journey began. I borrowed 15 lakhs from my Vikas, started doing trading. I got fooled around and lost 5 lakhs in the first 2 years because I didn't know what was salt, how to sell it, and all that, because I was taught the enterprise. I was in a management school, you can say that, because if you come to IIM, you have to pay fees. So if you go, I mean, this is my way of sort of learning hard way, but I did lost some money. In 2009, I realized that I don't have the skills of running an enterprise. I am not instinctively a businessman. I am a dreamer. So I thought, let me go through some skill training. I went to Ahmedabad Management Association for 16 Saturdays, Sundays to learn management accounting systems, because I have to understand finance and others. Then I took a program with Dasara in Bombay, which sort of trains. I was the eldest or the oldest student in the class, and there after 3 weeks of program, we won a small investment award from First Light Venture called, they call it Village Capital, and peer selection, they selected Sabras to get 75,000 US dollars, so 33 lakhs. So that was one capital that came into my way, and foreigners coming in, a lot of interest is generated, and a lot of people outside also began to know Sabras because they carried the information from here. While I was doing that, I realized the biggest cost of salt production is diesel. They have to borrow money from the trader for pumping out diesel, pumping out water so that they can produce salt. And that is where the catch is. That's where people prefix the price of the salt. Since producers don't have institutional access to institutional credit, they have to borrow money from the trader, and trader prefixes the price of the salt. That's the catch. And I thought, if I can attack both by changing the source of energy from diesel to solar or wind, then I would be able to create a different kind of a paradigm. And that's where I began to sort of focus. So first focus was on changing diesel pump into solar pumps, and second was establish small producers identity and create into the retail market, go into the salt retail market. In last 5 years, we developed first a windmill which didn't work. It flew like a Sudarshan Chakra in a heavy wind, and I realized it's not going to make sense. Then I went to NABARD and I said I need some money to experiment with solar energy. They gave me 6 lakhs as an interest-free loan. They were giving me grant and I said, no, I don't want grant. You gave me loan because I have a better ideas about later on. If I pay back 6 lakhs, then I will get 60 crores from them if I want. So basically I wanted to create a track record. And I got 2 solar pumps from Taiwan, dismantled them, learned from it, developed over a period of 3 to 4 years. We have established 18 solar pumps for 18 people. Every year, annually, they are making 1 lakh rupee more because of this. Their cost has completely gone of diesel. And secondly, it's a bankable model. I borrowed money from the banks and saw that they pay solar pump cost at 12.5% back to the bank. We also tried to deal in bulk salt and then tried out also edible salt. 1,10,000 rupees is what they make now. Well, these are some advantages of this thing. We tried out Sabras Plus salt in the market, in the rural market. It was experiment-wise, was successful. So we are now working on it. We are also going to come up with eco-friendly packets, crystal salts for the higher income group people, niche market. The way we are going to do it is having self-help groups to sort of process the salt, pack it into the market. Like our Amul model, milk is produced in the villages, processed, and then marketed through a very professional team of people. So very similar to, it's a salt, Amul of salt. You can put it that way. What Sabras has taught me, that it is possible to aggregate producers. You can work with them as partners. You can put equity and they can also put in some equity. We are right now seeking investment. We are seeking investment from several investors. It's a tough thing. Since last 3 years, we were engaging with somebody and it didn't work out. So now we have last 6 months, we have been working with other institution. Hopefully things may work out in March and we may expand and scale up the whole thing. We are hoping to raise about 7.5 crore as phase 1 and then we will gradually go into it. So in nutshell, now this is the journey that we have had. Sabras has taught us a lot of things, so I set up another one called Sahyog with farmers on the coast. We are in the business of input-output marketing with them. So we have small, I call it agri malls. It's a very misnomer. A mall means big building, but here is a small shop to start with, and we also have knowledge services. The third enterprise, Glowworm, which is a very young organization. We are setting it up with agricultural laborers as equity holders, these bonded laborers, trying to convert cotton stalks. After plucking the cotton stalks are burnt. So we, in the region of Bharuch, so what we are setting up is shredding and compressing of briquettes, cotton stalks into briquettes for industrial fuel. It's a business which can be very useful, both in terms of ecology as well as generating wealth out of it. And all these 3 enterprises are going to impact about not less than 25 to 30,000 families eventually. That's what we are. So, thank you.